That's now 5 losses in a row for our reeling Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Wednesday, January 8th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today we're going to break down a 4-0 loss to the Edmonton Oilers. Boston's 5th loss in a row, their 6th in 7 games since the holiday break. And it resulted in boos raining down from the stands, as well as a very audible "Fire Sweeney" chant. We will get to that in a moment. First, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, I'm a lifelong Boston Bruins fan. I've been hosting this podcast since 2019. Before that, I was a full-time hockey news writer for The Score. I've been covering this team for various outlets for 20 years now, and it's not the first time this team has been in danger of not making the playoffs. In fact, they missed the playoffs less than a decade ago, 2015, 2016. The vibes are not great around this team at the moment, and part of it is due to being so successful for so long and the fans really not being used to these losing skids and being in danger of falling out of a playoff spot, being in lottery contention, etc. Part of it is also just the fact that there's been a lot of disappointment in the Don Sweeney era. Yes, they've been incredibly successful in some respects. They've made the Stanley Cup final. They set the record for most wins and points in a season. But it's all been marked by ultimate failure and some questionable decision-making along the way that has rendered this team perhaps not as good as they could have been under other leadership. And right now, it looks as though they are going to drop out of the playoff race. Yes, they're third in the Atlantic, but if you look at the point percentages, if you look at the number of games played, you get to see a different picture. And the fact that the Bruins are still in a playoff spot at this moment is a testament to some abject mediocrity around the Eastern Conference. You had teams that were off to tough starts. You had teams that continue to be unable to rise to the expectations upon them of being in playoff contention. But you're starting to see some of those teams make up some ground, some of those teams be a bit more competitive, and the Bruins, as a result, may end up dropping out of a playoff spot. Now, it's going to be a tough task to measure up to the Edmonton Oilers, although the Bruins arguably had one of their best periods of the season against the Oilers just a few weeks ago. They were up 2-0. They outshot the Oilers 11-5 or something like that. Ultimately lost that game in overtime. That seems like a whole long time ago. It was only 3 weeks ago today that happened. The Bruins built off that, finished strong, heading into the break with wins over Buffalo, a very impressive win over Washington, but they've since only picked up 3 points in 7 games, a win over Columbus, and a overtime loss to the New York Islanders. I believe those are the only points that they've picked up since the break. And Charlie Coyle, one of the leaders on this team, after last night's game said, the Oilers just wanted it more. It's pretty simple. It was the kind of lack of urgency a lot of things that are embarrassing to say right now. They just wanted it more. Joe Sacco, after the game, said, "We have to find some solutions right now. The Bruins showed in Edmonton that they played well enough to beat them there. They've played against some of the top teams in the league and played well. Not the case last night. The Oilers were certainly playing at a higher level right from the drop of the puck. They won the majority of races to the puck. They were quicker than the Bruins. They won more one-on-one battles. Pretty much got what they deserved last night, in his estimation." Trent Frederick dropped the gloves with Corey Perry. He added after the game that the Bruins did not play their style of hockey. The way they're built, it's hard to get into a run and gun with a team like the Oilers. That's the game they want to play. The Bruins played right into their hands, and they're not going to win many games that way. Playing like that, not playing their style, not playing the game plan the Bruins had lined up for them last night. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. You can easily look at Don Sweeney and even his boss, Cam Neely, and say, yeah, the hot seat has moved up from the bench to the front office. And both of those guys should be feeling the pressure at this moment. They, again, have built a team that has been competitive for a long time, made it to the Stanley Cup final in 2019, won the President's Trophy as recently as 2023. Both of those campaigns ending in very disappointing fashion. And if they had won the cup, if the Bruins had won the cup in either of those 2 years, there'd be a bit more of a grace period, I'm sure. But you look at the way this team is built, and Trent Frederick alluded to that in his comments. They're not a fast run and gun team. They're a team that's big, built to wear down the opposition, and they're not able to do that against arguably one of the league's top teams in the Edmonton Oilers. Or, not arguably, they have two of the best players on earth at the moment. And while they did keep Leon Draisaitl from extending his lengthy point streak, they did allow Connor McDavid to score, and a lot of other Oilers were just running rampant last night. So you can say, yeah, they're on the hot seat for sure. But at the same time, you can't deny that there are a number of Boston Bruins underperforming this season. In fact, the majority of the Bruins players are underperforming. David Pastrnak is under a point per game for a guy who's making big money and who's achieved 100+ point totals over the last couple of seasons. You have Pavel Zacha at 21 points in 43 games. Elias Lindholm, a prize free agent acquisition, 20 points in 43 games. You have Morgan Geekie, who's come on as of late, but still only 18 points in 38 games. Charlie Coyle, 10 goals, 4 assists in 43 games. Trent Frederick, 6 goals, 6 assists in 43 games. John Beecher, only 8 points so far, and on it goes. Charlie McAvoy trying to do his best out there to carry the defensive efforts. Brandon Carlo, not the shutdown guy that we've become accustomed to seeing out there. Nikita Zadorov is a revolving door into the penalty box with a team high 78 penalty minutes ahead of Mark Kastelik, who's accrued many of those by fighting. Zadorov last night, strong to the net, knocked Jeff Skinner out of the game momentarily. It's those kind of things that, you could argue that he was pushed into the net or there's no way to avoid it, but it's just kind of the way the season has gone so far for the Boston Bruins. A lot of guys are underperforming, and you can put that on the general manager for sure. He brought in Lindholm. He brought in Zadorov. Some of the guys that he brought in have exceeded expectations. Justin Brazeau, for one. Kastelik. But these are kind of depth guys and not core players that you need to be flourishing in order to succeed. And it begins with Pasta. It goes down to Zacha, Coyle, Frederick. These are guys that you need more from. Lindholm. Yes, they have lost Hampus Lindholm, but these other guys are needing to step up. So has Don Sweeney put his eggs all in a basket of middle six players? Perhaps. But at the same time, some guys that have achieved success in the past, as recently as last season, career years from Coyle and Zacha, they're not performing. Trent Frederick's not performing. And it all is adding up right now to a 5-game losing streak with not really much reprieve in the near future, as they will take on both Florida teams in their next 3 games. Let's look at some stats and signals to take away from last night's loss to the Edmonton Oilers here as the podcast continues. The NFL playoffs are upon us, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are straight up better with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet. You don't have to win on that $5 bet either. Just put the $5 down and you'll get that $200 bonus. It's all available at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Stuart Skinner, Calvin Pickard combined for the second shared shutout and third overall in Oilers history. They shared a previous one in 2024, and then former Bruins goalie Andy Moog, Grant Fuhr did it back in 1985. Skinner, again, was knocked out for a little bit after that collision with Zadorov, but he was able to come back and finish the job for the Edmonton Oilers, shutting out our Boston Bruins here in a game where they didn't really muster a whole bunch to worry the Edmonton Oilers on the other end. At 5-on-5, the Oilers had 56.7% of shot attempts. They outshot the Bruins 30-21. Scoring chances 33-24, 13-8, the high danger chances. And that just got even bigger discrepancy in all situations. On paper, you look at the expected goals last night, they were actually 5.32 for the Oilers compared to 2.6. So maybe the Bruins deserve to pop a couple in, but ultimately we're not able to beat Skinner or Pickard, who was in the net for about 5 minutes in this one. Brad Marchand did generate 6 shots on goal. Oliver Wahlstrom had a decent game with 4 shots. Elias Lindholm chipped in 3 shots on goal, with Frederick, Zacha, Kostelic also chipping in a couple. Not much from the back end. Mason Lohrei, Andrew Peeke, Nikita Zadorov generating only 1 shot apiece, and the Bruins haven't gotten a goal from the blue line, I believe, in at least a month. High danger chances were 16-9 in favor of the Oilers. Scoring chances were 39-29, 39-26, the shots on goal. And the Bruins have been a bit better in terms of oppressing the opposition and keeping their shot totals low. Not on this night. 39 shots generated by the Oilers. They went 1 for 3 on the power play. The Bruins 0 for 2 on their chances, continuing a streak of special teams negativity, basically. When it comes to the standings and what it means stats-wise there, again, fairly deceiving because, again, the Bruins, third in the Atlantic. Cool. They're 5 points back of the Panthers. Ooh, maybe they have a chance of catching them. The Bruins have played 43 games, which is tied for New Jersey for most in the Eastern Conference. If you look at point percentage right now, the Bruins are 8th in the East and barely hanging on to that. Like, don't look now, but the Montreal Canadiens are 4 points back of the Bruins with 3 games in hand. That's 6 available points before they even get to the same amount of games played. So the Canadiens, who are red hot as of late, 8-2 over their past 10, they've won 2 in a row. If they can keep this hot streak going, even they could pass the Bruins very, very soon. The Ottawa Senators passed Boston in point percentage last night. And the Bruins are now at a minus 24 goal differential, which is second worst in the Eastern Conference. They've scored only 111 goals, which is third fewest, and they've allowed 135 goals, which is sixth most. Minus 24 goal differential. Only the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are somehow a 500 team, have a worse goal differential than the Bruins. If you go to the Western Conference, there's 3 teams worse: the Predators, the Blackhawks, and the San Jose Sharks. Point percentage wise, the Detroit Red Wings, they've won 5 in a row. They're up to 500. They have 3 games in hand on the Bruins. They are only 5 points back. So even they could catch them. The Penguins are 1 game fewer, 2 points back. Even the Blue Jackets are 3 points back with 2 games in hand. So a lot of these teams have an opportunity to make up some ground here. And the Bruins will be playing a Lightning team that's only 5-5 over their past 10, but they won last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. And let's be honest, they're a better team than the Boston Bruins. The Bruins will play Tampa, Florida, Tampa over the next 3 games, and then have a showdown with the Ottawa Senators, which could be very meaningful here. All of it points to Boston dropping out of a playoff spot. And that is only going to ratchet up the heat on Sweeney, on Cam Neely, on ownership to make a change at that level. But really, when you look at the roster, I don't see much improving this season unless some of these core guys can pick it up and can begin to even at least meet expectations. Hampus Lindholm was on the ice yesterday, and perhaps his return to the lineup could be coming sooner than later, but that's not an immediate fix. He probably won't be around for these next 3 games, and certainly his return to the lineup will be a boost to this team. He was the best defenseman before he got injured, arguably one of their best players. And we'll see here if he can help right the ship. But for the moment, things are not looking good for the Boston Bruins. And the pressure is now on Don Sweeney to, now that he's already played the card of firing the coach, now it's on him to shake things up when it comes to roster composition. The Bruins are in a fight with the Senators, the Canadiens, the Blue Jackets, the Penguins, the resurgent Red Wings for a playoff spot. And right now, they look like the worst of that bunch based on the way they're playing right now. 3-5-2 in their last 10. They've lost 5 in a row, 6 of 7. And the vibes are not great at all for this team. What signals can we take away from this? Well, again, the pressure's on Don Sweeney. There's a couple easy things that they can do to improve this roster before their next game against Tampa, and we'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. Now, I don't know about you, but I just love attending live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy. One of my favorite memories from this past year was going to a couple concerts, going to Blue Jays games. The energy, the excitement were unforgettable. GameTime has made it easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature called GameTime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the view from your seat, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the venue. And the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account at GameTime. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Because what time is it? It's game time. I was asked on Instagram yesterday to do kind of a prospect update. We're going to do that at some point soon. But when it comes to reinvigorating this lineup at the moment, there's no easier thing to do than to call up some guys who are excelling at the AHL level. And I'm thinking specifically of our boy, Matt Poitras. Matt Poitras was sent down after, coming off a big shoulder injury, wasn't quite finding his game at the NHL level. He's gone down to Providence. He's played 21 games, 8 goals, 10 assists, 18 points. He deserves a call up here. Straight up. You can't tell me that there are even 9 Bruins forwards that could be more effective than Matt Poitras in the lineup right now. Even Georgii Merkulov. He's got a 0.9 point per game rate at the NHL level or the AHL level right now. Did not look out of place at all when it came to his call up recently. You look at some guys in the Bruins lineup who could easily take a seat in favor of some of these guys. Oliver Wahlstrom, he had those 4 shots last night, has yet to do anything points-wise. Cole Koepke has slowed down a bit. John Beecher isn't looking great lately. The only guys that, deserve a spot in this lineup right now, the top 6, I guess, but Charlie Coyle, as good as his statement was after the game, he's the guy that needs to step up. He's only got 4 assists so far this season. It's not going to get the job done. Pavel Zacha, underperforming. Justin Brazeau, I think, is one of the only players who is meeting or exceeding expectations. David Pastrnak could use a bit of a youthful injection here. Call up Merkulov, Lysell, Poitras, get some of these guys into the lineup to freshen up things, bring some of that speed that they're missing. Look, last night they were outskated, outworked by the Edmonton Oilers. An easy thing to do is to recall some of these guys and shake the lineup a bit. Make guys realize that their spot in the lineup is not guaranteed. The Bruins had 3 6-game losing streaks back in 2015 when they missed the playoffs. They're at risk of matching that here coming up this season or coming up this week. If you look at the Bruins season by season record, again, it's been very good over the last several years. They haven't missed the playoffs in quite some time, dating back to, 2014-15, 2015-16, when they finished 5th and 4th in the Atlantic, 96 points, 93 points. They're very much at risk of missing the playoffs this season, especially if they lose another game. This losing streak could extend to 6 games, 7 games, even 8 games if they don't beat one of these Florida teams in the next 3. It's hard to recover from those kind of losing skids, especially in today's NHL with the 3-point game, the loser point. Yes, the Bruins are 20-18-5, above 500, but really they've won 20 games and they've lost 23. And their goal differential, minus 24, is now worse than it was before Jim Montgomery was fired. It was at minus 21. So it's only minus 3 under Joe Sacco, but still, there's signs that they are who they are. This team is what it is. They got a bump from replacing Montgomery with Sacco, but you could argue that was a favorable schedule helping them out as well. All those wins and points they racked up came against non-playoff teams. Now that they're being forced to play against some better teams in the NHL, you're seeing kind of the real Bruins show up here. So yes, there's pressure on Sweeney and Neely at the moment, but at the same time, some guys need to step up, and it would be smart of Sweeney to call up some young guys to maybe help push some of these veterans who are underperforming, or shake things up majorly by making a trade. That's probably his next big move, is to shake up the roster via trade, whether it's getting ahead of Trent Frederick, sending him out, although his value is low, whether it's selling high on Morgan Geekie, whether it's trying to work around some of these guys' no trade clauses and move out a Charlie Coyle or a Brandon Carlo. I'm not sure what the play is, but you can bet that Sweeney will be aggressive here, trying to improve this team via trade to kind of show ownership that he's still in control of this situation and still knows what he's doing. And to his credit, he has been very good on the trade market, not so much drafting and signings, which, 2 versus 1 here. We're seeing how that's balancing out at the moment. Anyways, the Bruins' next game is tomorrow against Tampa Bay. I think we'll try to do a mailbag episode tomorrow. So if you have any questions, send them in via YouTube, via Instagram, via X, and I'll be sure to answer those on the podcast tomorrow, beginning with the prospect update. Thank you so much for taking some time to listen today. Please do check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey next with Steal and Flip. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other. I was watching the Jerry Springer doc on Netflix last night. I swear I didn't steal that from him, maybe subconsciously, but here we are. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I knew you were going to mention the Jerry Springer thing.